Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxxTV's podcast 469. Terry Miller, the disc golf guy, ready to go. Maybe. As you can see, I am rolling solo. I'm currently in the beautiful Falcons section of the Smuggler's Notch Resort. And with all of that, like I said, I'm going to be pressing all the buttons and doing all the things on my own. So hopefully you guys are here, and I'm going to log in. Hopefully everybody is ready to go. I should not be muted. I don't know if you're being funny or not. Can I get an audio and video check? You can't mess with me on this because I genuinely need to know if it is correct. I am looking. I see ace run. Sounds fine. All right. Don't mess with me. Come on. You guys can't do that. I hope everything goes as smoothly as possible here. I just got done setting everything up the best that I could, and as I said, I'll be pressing the buttons. So, with that, welcome in. Of course, first and foremost, let's get the obvious out of the way. It is a Wednesday. The intention was yesterday to hold off from doing our typical Tuesday night podcast so that on today we could talk more about things that actually happened during round number 1 at the World Championships. Things have happened. Not everything's happened. Not all of the entire round, as many of you know, has gone on for every single competitor, and I'll talk about that a little more in a minute. But that was the overall logic. And then last night, as some of you saw, there was an opening ceremony that took place, opening ceremony / players meeting, completely typical to happen within a major or any of our big events. I am incredibly ecstatic and happy that it was broadcast. I feel like that's something that it gives a little taste to everybody at home as to what happens at some of these, and then also what we learned and experienced in a place like, well, DDO for many years, or the Glassblown Open, or even just the Pro and Am Masters World Championships last year, or I'm sorry, a few months ago. If everybody shows up to the meeting, as you're supposed to do, if everybody shows up to the meeting, sometimes that can get a little bit hot, stuffy, smelly, accommodating for anywhere from 300 to 500 to 700 or 800 people can be sometimes difficult. So this does give an opportunity that people at home are able to consume it, or if you maybe couldn't quite fit into the ballroom or wherever it was at the time, you could go back and you could actually watch it from the comfort of your home or your car or whatever else. And also, I love the fact that it's logged, and so that it's, if there is something that you specifically missed or didn't hear or didn't understand, the fact that you could also go back, if it's, of course, archived on YouTube or DGN or whatever, you have the opportunity to go back. So that took place last night. There was a lot of conversation about the gentleman that, came in with the overall tie, and the motivation that I think that he was trying to drive home was essentially of the idea that, hey, if there's something that you love, sport, athletic activity, or probably just about anything else, if there's something that you love, you probably could turn it into a career more so than just, that competition or that one activity. And I can't think of somebody who would scream that louder than myself, of course, in that I turned disc golf into my full-time career. And in his specific case, it was rowing and being a competitive rower, and then ultimately going on to college and starting this company and being very successful in his ways. I think it's fair to say that it didn't resonate or hit home maybe quite as well as is certainly intended. And clearly he had the best intentions in coming up and having that conversation or giving that keynote address. Just not sure that it was all dialed in to arrive at what he was trying to really drive home for a point. So nonetheless, that was 20 minutes that there was a pause by most of the competitors, and maybe a little bit of hesitation. But we got through it. And congratulations also to all the PDGA award recipients that were awarded various things, including Player of the Year. A lot of these players already knew. I think all of them. I think this has all been announced before and talked about. But the players were then recognized as well. And I think back again to Juliana Korver. She was actually mentioned at the Pro Masters Worlds when she had won for Senior Player of the Year. And so then mentioning it yet again last night was just kind of a nice touch. So that was the Worlds meeting. I feel like that did consume a lot of the conversation from yesterday. There was a lot of great things that took place and went down, but that the meeting itself was kind of stole the show in that sense, not maybe in the best way. So we move into round one today. Before we get into all that, I want to just really quickly recap, and I know this is already out of sync and everything with how we do stuff, but I want to real quickly go back and recap what we saw this last weekend at the Flying Disc Open, Jim Palmieri's 50th Flying Disc Open presented by Dynamic Disc. I just want to give the shout outs where appropriate. I know sometimes we have champions on from previous events, and this week, again, all just kind of jumbled up. So starting on the FPO side, I want to read off and shout out our top 5 FPO competitors. Sandy Hendel, who was there competing from Canada. She's also competing here this weekend at the Worlds. And then tying for third were Holly Finley and Ellen Widboom. Colleen McInnes took second place, and then winning handily by 9 strokes. I think she goes by Miss Frisbees on Instagram. Chantel Badinsky took it down. So congratulations to her. Biggest win of hers to date, and it also then stuck with the overall resounding theme that we've seen this year, in that the parity and the crazy amount of unique winners that we continue to see on both the FPO and on the MPO side. FPO, I think, even being more wild and crazy than what we've seen on the MPO. So nonetheless, congratulations. And one of the big conversation pieces that came out of this weekend, and it was already talked about last weekend too, and it obviously carried throughout, was just the timing, and that we didn't see a ton of our, top tier competitors there. Not to dismiss or take away from anyone that did compete at the event. However, the field overall in both MPO and FPO, it's fair to say it wasn't quite as deep as what we see at some of our Elite Series. And to be honest with you, any silver event this late in the year, no matter where it is, no matter what time, no matter, the circumstances, is not likely going to be as deep as, say, some of the first silver events of the year. That's just the way it's going to happen in terms of schedule. Some players, a Calvin Heimberg, I'll just throw out as one great example, or a Kristen Tatar, doesn't need any of the points that are offered up at a silver event. And that's no slight at the event itself, of course, but they don't need those points. And then you pair that up with the fact that, of course, we're prepping for the World Championships, that the doubles was taking place. So there's always this really fine line in this roll of the dice that, and this is another, I guess, PSA for every tournament director out there, if it's not obvious already. Your event happening the week before or the week after a major, always going to be tough. You know that going in, or you should know that going in, and you have to temper your expectations from there. Your club, your group, your organization, everybody should just hold back a little bit on the expectations, so to speak, because of that timing. And I know a lot of people say, well, it's perfect. It's just before, and we're only 2 hours away, or whatever the case is. Or, we come back, and they're going to fly right back into our city, and that's going to be great. Maybe not. Our players are now to a point where they can, some of them, some more than others, can afford to take weekends off and give themselves that extra rest and relaxation. And we're going to continue to see that happen. So nonetheless, congrats to our FPO field and competitors over there. And hey, I think I even did something. Let's see if I break it. No, we're going to try that in a minute. I think I'm going to be able to actually go to some screens, but I didn't set this one up. On the MPO side, what do you know? Another unique winner. Awesome to see. Congratulations. Just shredding the course over the last 2 rounds specifically. I think he broke his own course record. He shot a 10 under during round number 2 and then came back and then shattered that by 3 to shoot a course record. And I'm talking, of course, about Ezra Robinson, your champion. So congratulations to Ezra shooting 13 under in that final round. Connor Rock shot a 10 under, which the previous day was the course record. Connor is going to finish in third. Excuse me, my sort was funny. Matty O finished in second. He shot a 9 under during that last round. So as jumbled as that was, Ezra Robinson, Matty O, Connor Rock, taking fourth, Jake Wolf, and then GT Hancock in fifth. So congratulations to all of those competitors. Again, think about who you were introduced to this weekend or who you maybe didn't know quite as well. And then if you consume that coverage, now you know that much more about said player. I think of a Connor Rock who I had filmed and had on the channel, on my Disc Golf Guy channel in Arizona, maybe at the beginning of the year, I think for Maricopa. And just an opportunity, for him to be on an even larger stage, to be in front of live cameras, so on and so forth, to be out there touring. It's great. I think it's great that now we have those moments that people can go back and say, oh, yeah, I remember seeing what they did at such and such course. And that's exactly what the silver events are really intended to do. They're for the event. They're a stepping stone to possibly get to an elite level. And for our players, they too can be kind of a stepping stone in hopes of, performing well, getting their name out there, playing in front of cameras, all of those types of things, and then getting ready for, an elite series and major. So, all right. So congratulations to all of them. There were probably other A tiers, other things going on around the country. Congrats. Do I even have to look? This feels like it should be a sponsored segment, but does Brian Schweberger, does he pick up another win this last weekend? PDGA 12989. And since I'm here, since he gave me a compliment about my haircut, I'm gonna take a look for him. And if I scroll to August 26th, what do you know? What do you frickin' know? Brian Schweberger wins the Gateway Disc Sports presents the Assault on the Armory 2. Congrats, Schwebby. Love you, buddy. Global Masters Series rank number 1. He's battling back and forth, I know, with Scott Stokely. And that brings, according to the PDGA page, that brings Schwebby to 377 wins out of 831 events. Yeah, that's ain't too shabby. I'm going to put that link down in the video right now. Okay. How are we doing? I haven't broken anything yet? This is crazy. I just jinxed it naturally. All right, let's move in, and I'm going to give a little heads up that I don't anticipate this going incredibly long tonight. It's certainly not going to be a standard 2 or 3 or 4 hour Smashbox episode, but that kind of ties into what's going on tomorrow. I still have a message or two to read as I take a quick look. I know I have a message regarding when we're going to see things kicking back off tomorrow morning, and we'll get all to that in a minute. So let's do as we usually would, and I think I can click on this. Hey, and hopefully that still continues to work, but if I click on this, I believe I can talk about... I can talk and show you guys scores and talk about scores. So let's see if we can make this happen. As I click on this, scrolling down, let's take a look at our FPO side today for the World Championships. Of course, we've got round number 1 is in the books for the FPO competitors. And I want to go back and actually just take a quick look at our Brewster course and see what kind of jumps out at you guys in terms of the Brewster layout. And to me, and I remember talking about this and thinking about it as a few of our competitors were closing out, to me it felt like, hey, look at where you can close out, how strong you can close out on this course. And that's what we saw by our top competitors there, the people that finished the highest. Kristen Tatar, of course, out in the lead. Valerie finishing with 3 straight birdies, as did Kat Murch. So that's something to look to. I know that the conditions were kind of back and forth throughout the day. We also look at Silva Sarnen and the day she had, and then she really struggled to close out. But you really have that opportunity to close out strong. And oh, okay, I'm sorry, they're mixing them in with the tee off for tomorrow. You have that opportunity to close out really strong when you're taking a look at those last few holes. Also, look at Holland Hanley. She didn't get 17. Excuse me, she didn't get 17 and 18, but she did get the 3 before that. Luque also had a pretty solid back 9. I mean, the back, obviously, there's places where bogeys were sprinkled in, but overall, it feels as if this back does play a little bit easier than what we saw on the front. And then also, some of these scores can be misleading in that when you see a lot of these bogeys added in some of these places, that could be a direct result of the weather that had come through. If we drill down a little bit and see, it looked like a pretty incredible day out there for Kristen Tatar, our leader. She, I believe, just missed 1 putt from C1X, which she talked about during the press conference. 91%. She ended up going, 2 for 3 from C2. 0 OBs, not a surprise there. Just an all-around solid day. I mean, if you really think back to her very first shot of the day, just a standard forehand for her, right next to the basket, not a problem. Valerie Mondahano, looking at her stats, 85% C1X. She was 2 out of 4 from C2. No out of bounds. Kat Murch had plenty of birdies out there today. She did have the OB on 15, 100% C1X, and then she was 2 of 6 from C2. So giving herself some looks there, and then also that long one of 49 feet, and that was to save a bogey. You don't want to be making 50-footers to save bogey, but you'd rather have the 50-foot make for bogey than a 5-foot tap in for double. And then Missy Gannon, not necessarily her best day in terms of her C1X, just at 78%. 33%, she ended up getting 1 of 3. So that's who we'll see on our lead card tomorrow. I don't know if there were any surprises. That might be the question that I would have for you guys is, was there any surprises out there that you saw overall? Anything that jumped out at you in terms of what was taking place on the card? The first thing that comes to my mind, as you guys can chime in, for me it would just be that Owen struggled, and we already know now that that is likely due to Owen and a injury, and early signs from what I've been told point to tendonitis of some kind. I don't know. I mean, that's not an official diagnosis by any means, but from the conversations that were had, it seems as if that is the direction in which it's pointing. So I'm going to throw this out there. If Owen has, assuming she goes out tomorrow morning, and let's just say she has a mediocre day, and she doesn't really make any big moves, and by that, I'm going to go take another quick look at, as I scroll down, I want to take a look at where she finished ultimately. She was way down in, excuse me, she's way down in a tie for 34th with her 6 over. If Owen, and we know she's not a quitter, but if she has a rough day out there tomorrow and she's experiencing the pain, it might be in her best interest to hold off that moneymaker, to hold off that arm for the rest of the year. Again, I'm not her doctor, and I'm not her caddy, I'm not her coach, I'm none of those things. I'm not her sports psychologist or her her representation, anything of that nature. And these are all decisions and things that I'm sure she's already weighing and talking about. But if she doesn't have a solid day tomorrow, you have to be thinking ahead about the, throw pink. You have to be thinking ahead about the tour championship. You have to be thinking ahead about maybe even MVP or not. But those are the events that you can start thinking ahead to. And I don't want to suggest like, well, Owen should just be happy. She got her third world title in FP40, and we understand how fierce of a competitor she is, how fun of a competitor she is at the same time, and that she just enjoys being out there and how hard she grinds. But this might be one of those times where it might behoove her to back off and look at the bigger picture if things aren't going well for her. Now she battles back, shoots a 6 under tomorrow. She's sitting at even, and is feeling good about things. Obviously, everything I just said, take it off the table. But if she has a rough day out there tomorrow and she's still in some pain, I don't know that it's worth it for her to continue to fight through the next potential 2 or 3 rounds. That brings me to my next point. There is a cut here. I believe I saw that it is 45%, a cut to 45% of the field for the FPO competitors and a cut to 40% of the field for MPO competitors. That would be Saturday night into Sunday. So keep that in mind. I don't know why, but I'm a big fan. Of course, an event of this length, when you're in 127th place and it's Saturday night, you're not getting into 40th or anywhere near there come Sunday. And so getting cut from the field, I'm just a big fan of. I think everything picks up and just works out much better when that's the case. So, yeah, we'll have to see. But as someone saying on the board, she looked defeated late in the round, and also that she was holding her hand. It looked like she was hurting bad at times. I didn't see all of the round, but I did see her a few times shaking her hand, which could have been the cold or the wet. But then I also saw her holding her arm a few times. And with that, you just have to hope that everything's as good as it possibly can be, and that she makes the right decisions moving forward here. I hope she's not going to do any other potential damage or have any other challenges. That sounds like a segue right over to another injury as I'll transition. No, I don't want to transition over to the MPO side just yet. Let's talk a little bit more about FPO. We did see, again, Kristen, Kat. Oh, what is going on here? Oh, yeah. We have things clicked on the U-Disc. We have Kristen, Valerie, Kat Murch, Missy Gannon. Missy Gannon getting the nod onto the lead card because she has a lower PDGA number than Stacy Ronsley. That's nothing new, but in case you're new here, that's something worth noting. It is listed as a 10 a.m. tee-off Eastern time for tomorrow. Kristen Tatar, 3-stroke lead after 1 round. She did have the 1 bogey out there today. Man, I thought she was going to get through with a perfectly clean round there. And the one thing I'll say is I saw her as I was getting ready for Tournament Central on the MPO side, and she had just got done, I think, doing interviews and everything else. And I said, how was it out there? And she just kind of shook her head. She said, that might be the hardest I've ever had rain come down on me during a round. Like, that might have been the most fierce, or I'm trying to remember the exact word she used because her English is better than most of ours. She was saying that might have been, though, the hardest, essentially, that she's ever had rain come down on her during a round. And thankfully, that wasn't fully sustained. But when there was a burst that was coming down out there, it looked miserable. And then Silver, her significant other, was on the other course, and he was essentially saying the same. And he's like, I was through all of my towels almost by hole 4. And then they were kind of comparing how they both battled through it. So if you can talk about suffering through some of the worst rain you've ever experienced in your, relatively lengthy career so far, and you come out of that round, a tight wooded course, kind of slippery tees, a million trees to hit, and you come out of the course with one bogey and you just experienced some of the worst conditions ever and you're somewhat nursing an injury, you just think like, how good is she when she's perfectly healthy in great conditions? It's kind of honestly insane. So that's what we saw there. Reading down again, Stacy Ronsley, Luque Lorenzen, Holland Hanley, and Allie Smith will make up your chase card. It's crazy to think someone on the chase card is already 7 behind our leader. You cannot, I mean, I was going to say you can't let her run away with it. You can't stop her. All you can do is try and keep up and then hope that maybe you have a round that allows you to actually make up ground. But for now, you have to just hold on for dear life and not let her run away with it in the early goings here. Lisa Fakis, Madison Walker, Evelina Salonen, and Heidi Laine all make up your third card. And our friends at Ace Run Productions, oh yeah, they're on the board. You guys are you're probably already done editing because you're so good. Ace Run, talking about that's their card. The second card will be theirs tomorrow. So, yeah. Thanks, guys, for all the hard work you're doing out there. Hopefully you didn't get too wet or something. All right. I don't know. I don't think there's anything else except for the fact that tomorrow our FPO competitors will head to the Fox Run course. They will be playing Fox Run Meadows. And if I look at just a few of the details, I don't want to get ahead of myself and look at win probability. But for the sake of time stamping this, for whatever it's worth to you guys, oh my gosh, it almost does feel disrespectful, almost. Right now, the UDisc win probability after this first round has Kristen Tatar at 96%. Those are nothing more than simulated iterations and whatever, but right now it has Kristen Tatar at 96%, showing Missy Gannon at 2%, and Valerie Mondahano at 1%, and then the rest of the field all at then less than 1%. I think you need to give them something greater than 0. So anyway, 96% is what's currently listed. Course stats, real quick on those. For Fox, the other pool of women played out there today. I don't want to say so that skews the numbers, but those are your lowest or lower rated of all the FPO competitors. However, it has become very apparent which holes seem to be the most difficult. And so tomorrow, keep your eyes out for holes number 7 and hole number 18. Those two played as the most difficult. Hole number 5 didn't have a single birdie on it, nor did hole number 15. However, they still overall didn't play quite as difficult as hole number 7 and hole number 18. Hole 7 played at 1.69 over par. Hole 18 to close out played at 1.64 over par. All right. With that, let's move over. MPO side, what a mess. To no fault of anyone else, but what a mess out there today, just in terms of what we're left with. And what I mean is we had plenty of competitors get through the course, get things wrapped up. They dealt with some inclement weather and conditions. Some were out there while the women were getting, if you were really early tee time, of course you were essentially experiencing the same weather as, say, Kristen and the final feature card. I know Bradley Williams expressed some frustration or bad luck of the draw, whatever you want to call it, in terms of his earlier tee time today. But quite frankly, it feels as if everyone had some inclement weather. Obviously, some was worse than others, but almost everybody had it. And we were just into hole number 2 for our final feature card of the day, which is when it got called off. excuse me, we experienced a lightning delay. I don't know the time. Somebody else could probably tell me what it was in total. I'm gonna guess it was probably about an hour, maybe an hour and 15 minutes. We restarted at 5:45 locally, so it had to be at least an hour and 15 minutes, maybe when it was all said and done. Whatever the case was, players got back out there, and then immediately is when we discovered that there was no way we were also going to finish the round because of darkness. So that's become another part of this whole conversation. As of now, it sounds as if the play will resume at 7:47 tomorrow morning for the players that were out on the course. So 7:47 will be the tee off. There'll be a 2-minute warning at 7:45. I think the broadcast is going to be starting up pretty much right around that time as well, and we'll close out the MPO side of the broadcast. So that's what we can be looking for tomorrow. But someone who's sleeping just great tonight and not worried about much, Chris Clemens. Heck yeah, Clemonade getting it done today. A 12 under bogey-free effort. Let's see if I can also. You don't need to look at my face. I'm going to show you guys Chris Clemens, his 12 under. I did not look at all the specifics myself yet, so I'm just seeing the 100% C1X, 25% from C2, 104, no out of bounds. And nothing too flashy, just the 38-footer for his one C2 connection. He had the single scramble for 100%, and you see where, you know, he slowed down per his standards on the day. Not too shabby. Barella had the bogey on 8. 0 C2 makes. That's crazy. Clearly driving the disc very well and then putting pretty darn good inside C1X. 93% for Anthony Barella. Isaac Robinson, I know he was one of the much earlier cards. 100% C1X, 0 from C2 out of 4 looks at it. And he also struggled mightily on hole number 8, the par 5 that's out there. And Jesse Nieminen got it done with 100% C1X, 57% C2 putting. Nothing overall that is just blowing you away with some of those details. When we started the MPO side of things in terms of the broadcast, that's when we were seeing 9 under look to be a pretty popular score. And 8s and 9s are very popular. In fact, we have 11 players that shot either 8 or 9 under. A few of those guys still out on the course, hoping to improve on that as they close out. James Proctor, Jakub Semerad, 2 of the guys that both have a few holes to play. Alden Harris is at 7 under, and he still has 4 or 5 holes to play. So certainly some opportunity for some of these competitors to still finish strong and possibly get past that number. And then, of course, when you scroll down a little more, we see a few of the others that have plenty of golf. Aaron Gossage, Nicholas Antala, Grady Shue, Calvin Heimberg, Evan Scott, all of the guys that we'll see out there tomorrow morning. Greg Barsby, who's on the final feature card. Simon Lizotte is also going to be getting up there. And then Paul Macbeth, who had started out pretty clean along with Wysocki. You see they are almost perfectly matching one another for the first 4 or 5 holes. And then Ricky's kind of gone on a little bit of a par slump, and Macbeth picked up the bogey on the apple tree or apple orchard hole, as we sometimes refer to it as. You see, as you close out here, hole 17, definitely friendly. Opportunity for plenty of birdies as you scroll down and look at the scores. Albert Tom is on that second to last, one of those final feature cards as well, or not quite the feature card, but near it. And we continue to look down and go from there. Some of these players over at the Fox Run course, no, none of these guys are. This is all at Brewster, so I apologize. Cole Wareheim, you're seeing out there from Florida. Connor Rock, who we just talked about with his third place performance in Rochester, and so on and so forth. So that's what we're seeing on that MPO side. Now, I'm going to see if I can possibly give you guys the scoop. And I feel as if I think I can share this. Don't tell anybody if I can't. An email that I received talked about not reshuffling. They are not reshuffling MPO for round 2. That means the feature cards will be the same. Clemens, AB, and Cole will be nearly finished with Fox when we start the broadcast. And then we're going to continue to do our best to feed highlights. So we'll go out. We, meaning the hardworking cameramen, will do it. They'll go out and find those players and try and capture footage from them as they're out there playing for round number 2. So that it does and it doesn't have a significant impact. Of course, it depends on who you talk to, and then hindsight's going to be 20/20 in terms of the people that are going to say they really wished it happened or really wish that it didn't. Not shuffling the cards is obviously a byproduct here of the way that the round didn't get completed today. You can't really have someone, let's just say, I'll make up some numbers and say somebody closes out tomorrow morning at they start at 7:45, they close out their round, they're 4 over for the day. 4 over, once you reshuffle everybody, might put them back out on the course at 10:30. I mean, they may literally be getting off the course at 8:59, 9:30, whatever the time it is, and then turn around and have to go play again. And some of you may think, well, that's no big deal, but it is far more likely to create an incredible amount of confusion by shuffling any kind of results or any kind of cards versus just saying to everybody, hey, whatever time you teed off on Wednesday is the exact same time or the same group and essentially the same time you're going to tee off on Thursday. So that's why they're doing it. The internet is going to be the internet, I'm sure, tomorrow, and not understand it and argue with it and fight about it, and that's fine. You can have your opinion. I'm just telling you exactly as to why they do it, so that it overall creates the least amount of confusion and chaos, and it is also then giving those players the best chance at getting the rest between their rounds, so to speak. Clearly, it's already unfortunate that some didn't get done with their round today. They had a much longer day, wet, everything else, and then have to get back up earlier tomorrow to go complete a round, to then reset themselves a few hours later to go play their second round. That's part of golf. I'm just explaining that that's why there isn't going to be a shuffle. Now, fast forward. Come tomorrow night, assuming everybody's completed with 2 rounds, there'll be what we can call a great shuffle, or the great shuffle. I think it's been referred to at Worlds for many years. They'll take every single competitor in the MPO division, and at that point they will shuffle because everyone has played 1 round at Brewster, everyone's played 1 round at Fox, so then it would be fair, and they'll completely shuffle them and put X amount on one course and Y amount on the other. I don't know what the exact numbers are. They're probably going to mirror what we've seen. I'm sure actually I have a few clicks and I could probably tell you guys, but there'll be a big shuffle at that point. They'll play out those 2 rounds. You'll be in that pool. You either be in the top pool or the bottom pool of the division, and then you play out those next 2 rounds, of course, at those 2 courses, and then there'll be the cut to that after Saturday. There'll be the cut to Sunday to the top 40%. Yeah, I think all that makes sense. I have to really think about how that all goes down. Someone says, I'd be shocked if they didn't do it the way Terry is explaining. Yeah, well, ideally I'm sharing correct info, so I'm hoping that I'm not in any way adding to anyone's confusion. I don't believe that I would be. Even if the TD, Ryan says, if they didn't have tee times listed tonight, the TD would have 500 emails tonight asking what time their tee time is. Yeah, it's just so much easier. Again, now their exact same team time. If you teed off at 3:01 today, I'm not guaranteeing you tee off at 3:01 tomorrow, but it's going to probably be within a general time frame of roughly 10 or 15 minutes from there. And the people that you played with today are the people that you will play with tomorrow. So, and yeah, I apologize. Some of you guys are saying that I am only coming out of a mono channel in your left ear, presumably. That's probably a setting on my end. So I take full blame for that. Um, Johnny V has promised he's going to take this, download it, and then put it out in an audio version as well, and hopefully he can make that in post production. Yeah, that's what we saw. I have seen, and I feel bad. I've got a cameraman who's probably got to be up in a few hours in one of the rooms that I'm sharing here in the condo, and Zoe Andike and Dustin Keegan are over in another section of this same condo out here at Smuggler's Notch. And Zoe will be working the FPO side of things tomorrow, and Dustin, he had teed off at 2:40 today on the Fox course, and I think he just told me that they had 5 holes to play. So he'll be also getting up early, coming back, resetting to then go back out in the afternoon. So as a lefty won Worlds, and the short answer to that is no on the MPO side, because I'm thinking about Lissamans? Johnny Lissaman never won Worlds, right? Now I'm going to sound like an idiot. I know you're like you didn't need to go to Vermont and get on the internet to say that. Johnny Lissaman never won PD. Oh no, Johnny Lissaman or his brother Jeff or Johnny Lissaman, I don't think ever won an open. They never won an open Worlds. Okay, Johnny, PDJ 2008, and Jeff, what a guess, 2007. Had no. I apologize. Isn't one of them left-handed? Now I'm sure any California people are gonna hopefully holler at me, but I can't think of any lefty. And on the FPO side, similarly, I cannot think of any lefty that's won a Pro Worlds. Masters, yes. Various age protected, yes. I'll go AM Worlds. Scott Martin, AM Worlds. And if you're not from the Midwest, you probably don't know that. 90. I'm going to say 94. Come on. I got to do my own research. AM Worlds, Scott Martin. No, not 94. 93, 92? Come on, guys. PDGA Amateur World Championships, first place in advance, Scott Martin, PDGA 5560, and the year was 1992. So I can think of him specifically if we want to talk about lefties that have won some Worlds. And I'm sure that obviously there's been other various AM, but when I think about my generation and think about some of the AM Worlds, he's one that comes to mind. Others have said, I can't think of one. Clemens and Queen took this down. It would be epic. A Devin Owens, it was another lefty. Craig Leva, who's no longer with us. He was a powerhouse in terms of being a lefty. Yeah, I can't think of. I'm trying to think of who else has maybe been contenders even within there. I'd have to give it a minute. I'm sure I could. Clemenade's Worlds to win this year. A lot left to play, but I could see a final card of Chris, Cole, Calvin, and Clint. The Battle of the Seas. Okay. I will also, since that's a fair question, and some people may not have heard about it at some point during the show today. Right before I started Tournament Central this afternoon on the MPO side, Adam Hammis had walked up to the tournament staff and said, I need to withdraw. Immediately said, what's going on? What's wrong? He completed his round. However, he said that his elbow was killing him. And then when asked, what it meant, what was going on, he said that it was about a week and a half ago, I think, he had jumped into I don't know if it was a stream or a lake or something. He had jumped into something where unknowingly then ended up hitting his elbow on a rock. And then as he was describing to us, even though I don't have a disc here in front of me, as he was describing, he said anytime he put something on like a forehand on a cut on some kind of an angle and needs to throw that type of shot, which you often see him throwing, he said it was just excruciating pain and couldn't do it. He said my backhands were fine. I got through the round. He said if I could throw exclusively backhands, I probably could be okay and get through it. But he said that it really hurt. So Adam at that point effectively withdrew. He said, I know there's other big events that still are yet to come this year in terms of USDGC, in terms of the Disc Golf Pro Tour Championship. And that's kind of what started leading me to the whole, a similar mentality maybe for, in Scoggins is, yes, nobody wants to pull out of a Worlds, especially anyone that has an opportunity, a chance to actually win it. But you have to think now about the longevity in other events. If playing at 30 or 40 or 60% at one event then hurts you longer for other events, maybe you have to make that really tough decision. And for bonus points to anyone out there, anybody remember when Adam Hammes really, really exploded onto the scene? I mean, he grew up in Wisconsin. He played in tournaments that I ran. I've known him for quite some time, even though he's from northern Wisconsin and quite a few hours from me. Does anybody remember the big blowout when we saw Adam Hammes really, really make a name for himself on a national stage? Bonus points for anyone in the chat that can tell me when that was. Okay. I'll wait for that. Another cool feature that I think the Pro Tour does, and I don't know if I should bother doing it for my channel and or my Disc Golf Guy channel and or maybe the Smashbox channel. Do you guys like you must be subscribed to post? I kind of like that. It provides an extra layer of, I don't want to say accountability, but just a tiny extra layer of maybe authenticity or seriousness. Now, not to say you can't post and still be a jerk or a troll or something of that nature, but I feel like if you're subscribed, you're less likely to fall into that. I'll read a couple quick comments regarding Adam. Somebody said, Adam is smart. He has a good career to play out. No sense in pushing it. Totally agree with that. Hall of Fame Classic. Yes, kind of, sort of. Tim, that's a good guess. Wintertime Open. The putting performance at whatever tournament that was. Oh, brilliant. Thank you. The time he shoved your camera. No, Paul. That was not when he was in the midst of it. He did that after the fact. That was Portland. That was the Portland Open a few years, I want to say a year or two later. Skins, no, I don't recall. I didn't watch that. Beaver State Zing or Fling, no. Hall of Fame Classic. Really, yeah, Pilcher, you pretty much nailed it. It was the 2017 Worlds. That's when he was on either lead or chase card. I think lead for quite some time, for a couple of rounds. That's where I feel like everyone learned of his name for sure, was the 2017 Worlds in Augusta. Again, we knew he was skilled. We knew he was good. Everybody kind of knew that. Well, not everybody. Some already knew that. But that was where he really, I mean, you show up and you're on the lead card at Worlds. Naturally, people are going to take note. So that would be my answer to that question. You could argue the Hall of Fame Classic, which I feel like the Hall of Fame was a few months later. You guys could do the math on that. But the camera push is too. Any good Vermont beers on this trip so far, Terry? Funny enough, I exchanged a few messages today with Nate and Val Doss out in Bevel, and they wish me good luck in being out on the course this week. And at that point, I said something or other about looking for some barrel-aged stouts, and they said, actually, talk to Avery, which is another point of conversation. This all ties together. Talk to Avery. He's been there, tried them all, and experienced them all. And he said that Nate went on to say this area is very does a lot of IPAs and is very IPA heavy and forward. That doesn't do it for me. I mean, it just doesn't do it for me. So if anybody's got these connections and these hookups that I need to some good sweet barrel aged stouts, you know where to find me. Um, let's talk about the quick. The Avery Jenkins today made a post expressing some frustration potentially, and also I would say some disappointment in the fact that he is his run at the World Championships in terms of consecutive appearances has come to an end, and that is it is a little bit crazy. I'm going to see if I can really get fancy on you guys. I don't think I can. So that answers that. Well, it doesn't show up for me. That's too bad. But yeah, Avery did make a post today, and let's see if I can find exactly how it was. Why can't I do that on the internets? Sorry guys. Well, that's frustrating. Give me a moment, please. Time for a quick commercial break. Okay, it's not, actually. I want to read, though, how he had stated it. He says, it's an end of an era, as I will not be competing in my 24th consecutive Disc Golf World Championships, longest active streak in the sport. I was unable to get into the tournament off the waiting list, and I was denied any type of past champion exemption into the event. Definitely not the way I wanted to see this streak end when obvious accommodations could have been made. I've been fortunate enough to compete in every pro world championship since 1999 in Rochester, New York, and I've been present at every Worlds at some capacity since 1991 in Dayton, Ohio. Pro, I'm going to assume. This is an event I've always been part of for every summer for decades, so I'll be here with the family showing support for the event. The World Championships is the pinnacle event, and the most deserving player always wins. All the best to the players competing this week. This is your time to shine. I love Avery. I can understand the conflicted responses. Conflicting, contrasting responses to that. Completely understand. In some ways, there's so many people that say, a previous champion should always have some form of exemption or be allowed in or something of that nature. I saw a lot of posts of people saying, well, I like that idea, but how about for the next 5 years or 10 years or 12 years or 20? Then it becomes so arbitrary. What year? How many years do you give that person the exemption for if you're going to put a year on it? If you're going to say lifelong, that's one thing. If you're not and you're going to pick some year, we all know we could fight for hours about how many years that exemption should work. I always extrapolate it out just for the sake of argument. Who do we extend these invites to? Avery is the 2009 world champion. Are we extending it to all of the world champions from every year? How long do they get? What's their registration period? When do they have to commit by signing up for it? Sam Ferrens, who won 20-some years ago, 30-some years ago, are we giving him a deadline and say, hey, you have an invite until this deadline? All of your previous champions, and I'm not out to pick on any names. I'm really going back from the longevity, to find the limit into which you invite this person and or let them play. I just think there's another argument to be had at that point. And then what if we'll use Avery's a legitimate example here. Should he also get the invite to Pro Masters Worlds? Because he's Pro Masters eligible right now. He's in fact a few weeks away from me in terms of our birthdays. Random useless side note. But should he get a Pro Masters Worlds invite? Should he automatically have a spot to play in that because he was a previous world champion? Should you only get it for the division in which you won? Or should it carry with you maybe only to age protected divisions in which you're currently then eligible for? Or, I mean, I guess you're eligible for MPO, but would it feel better if he got an invite to Pro Masters Worlds, or an exemption, but didn't get one into Pro Worlds? But he's 45, but he won in Open. Like we could go so many different ways with this, and this is not a slight on Avery or anyone. I literally think about every world champion, and then you really start talking about, well, I was, should all major winners, any major winner, automatically have an invite? What about a junior world champ, an AM world champ, AM nationals champion? Like, where do you continue to draw the line as to, I mean, and that's not to take away any of the accolades from any of these people or dismiss or diminish them in any capacity, of course. Then you start talking about, well, what if someone's a Hall of Famer? Should they be getting certain eligibility because they're in the Disc Golf Hall of Fame, which isn't technically the PDGA Hall of Fame? It's just the Disc Golf, the World Disc Golf Hall of Fame. This then also, it becomes a similar argument to when you see a world champion and they may or may not be current within the PDGA, and then people say, well, their ratings and their stats and details should be always listed as the PDGA because they're a previous world champion. Similarly, if they're a Hall of Famer, should their information be listed because they are a Hall of Famer? I don't know. I just want to say, I don't think it's black and white in terms of it's so obvious that someone gets an exemption. And we use worlds, and this is one specific case. Let's fast forward 2 months. We could be having many of these arguments 1 month about USDGC. Well, should you, at the USDGC, should you, all of the previous champions, which has been part of their protocol, they then withdrew that for a few years, I feel like, but then reinstated it. But the USDGC, all the previous champions from there, what about all the world champions? Do world champions, because if you become world champion, you qualify for sure for that year to be in the USDGC. Heck, they were inviting the AM world champion to play in the USDGC for many years. So this year, if you have a pro world champion and you invite them, should you invite all pro world champions from previous years? There's just so many different angles in which we could spin this, or you could get it to align with what you want or whom you do or don't favor. And let's be fair, if you like one particular person that is a world champ or meets certain criteria, you could be lobbying for them. And then fast forward 2 years later and somebody else with that exact same criteria who you don't care for, you could say, oh no, that I'm completely good with dismissing that. I guess that's the definition of subjectivity maybe, or favoritism. But those are the things that I think about. I don't have the right answer. I like the idea that a world champion has an exemption, an eligibility to play, but I definitely think about when do they make that commitment, and in terms of coming to play, and what does that deadline look like? If Harold Duvall is a world champion from 1984-ish, is it just assumed that we're going to send him an invite as well to compete, and then he just has a certain time frame to say yes or no to it? Maybe. If he says no 12 years in a row, and then they either don't send it, or all of a sudden on the 13th year next year he's like, yeah, I'm coming to play. And then let's just say someone who is removed from playing, who was a champion from a few decades back, shows up with their 890 rating, I'll just make up a number, and shoots 38 over par round one and is 50 off of the pace. Somebody, what is going to say, well, they're stealing a shot from some other legitimate pro that didn't get in. They're stealing an opportunity. They're not, they had no chance. So then you get into this argument of who are we trying to, honor or recognize, and then at what cost does that come? So I don't have an answer for Avery. It is tough, especially when I look at him and think he's Pro Masters eligible, and that's not where his priority is, and I'm not suggesting that, but an invite to Pro Masters Worlds does seem more likely. Or again, invite exemption, those are all the different ways to look at it. But yeah, I say it all the time, and it's just like coverage. I can make up a million excuses why I should go cover somebody. Somebody's always got an angle, and you start getting into some slippery slopes as to where exemptions and where these things. Now, I hate seeing that. I'm also a kind of a legacy. You know, I like dynasties and legacies, and I love streaks. So I very much feel sad for Avery. Like I'm disappointed that he didn't get this opportunity to do it. I'm just saying, I guess I don't know what the perfect solution would be. And this comes from a guy who, myself, I played in 20 consecutive worlds. I played in 4 AM worlds back when it was a different vibe. And I wasn't really good enough to play in the first couple, but played in 4 AM worlds, and then I played in 16 consecutive pro worlds. So I've right there with Avery. So most of those that he's played, I played along with him at one point or another. Or I was there as he was beating me for most of them. But yeah, so anyway, unpack that, put it where you want, and see what happens. Meta Drew says Junior World Champion should get lifetime invites to Pro World, so it's eventually crowded and a bunch of people who peaked in high school. I mean, again, it's just a matter of drawing a line, and it can get very, very difficult. Spock says there's definitely a large enough player pool at Worlds to make room for all the prior champs. There's a dang A pool and B pool. The problem is that the waiting list is still like 50 or 60 or 80 long. Like Avery was on a waiting list and didn't make it in. The waiting list itself, I want to say, was 80 people long. So you can't just say, well, yeah, there's unlimited room, because there's not. Especially as Pro Worlds continues to have this 2-course capability for the most part. We're seeing Pro Worlds now is basically 2 courses. And so with 2 courses, even with tee times and having FPOs, of course, like you're only going to get so many people. It's not an unlimited size anymore. And I think that could be another great question about the overall goal of Worlds. Are we trying to have 400 competitors and then crown a champion? Or what if it's tightened up and we have 250 of the top competitors, because that feels as satisfying or more in terms of having the quality player come out on top at the end? I think it's, again, a matter of strategy and what we're ultimately trying to accomplish. So, well, guys, I think that's what we have in terms of the day one recap. I hope I broke down some stuff that maybe you didn't already know. Even if you did hear it, this is a good timestamp in history for everything that's taking place out here at Smuggler's Notch. The fact that we're here for the first time in 5 years, the fact that Greg Barsby is having a solid opening round, and of course won here in 2018. What it would mean for him, what would it look like? I was thinking in the middle of the round today, Greg hasn't won a lot since his Worlds in 2018, and it was this amazing, incredible week that he had. He hasn't done a lot in terms of big wins since then. And, I think it was Ian or Philo that kind of said, well, what he wouldn't give to win here again, to prove it wasn't luck or fluky or anything of that nature. Not that he really needs to prove that to anybody, but you think, hey, I won it once, then to win it again. And immediately my mind went to, well, the first negative criticism would be, yeah, but he can only win at Smugs. He can only win Worlds at Smuggler's Notch. It's something about those courses or whatever. And I hate that I immediately pulled myself right into the negative aspect of what somebody would say. But I guess maybe I just know all too well how the internet works. But that's probably the first criticism that would come about if he were to pick up another victory here and say this is the only place that he can win Worlds at. I'd like to answer a few questions. Call it an after show, call it not, call it whatever you want, or just me answering a few questions to close out. I'll answer a few more of your questions off the board, and then I'm going to cut this short, cut it loose. What have we been, we beating me? Just an hour, a little over an hour. Again, another short podcast. If this continues to work well, which I feel like it's gone okay, unless somebody hollers at me otherwise, maybe we can find more Disc Golf Guy nightly recaps or something like that I may put together on my channel. So if I do, I'll of course make sure I post those on Instagram and everywhere else to let you guys know they're happening. So let's see what I can find out here for some questions. If you asked a question earlier, please re-ask it, and then I can try and address it. And I'll go through these as quickly as I can, and we won't have it drag on too much more, and we'll get going then. Someone said, does Avery still play on the tour? Not really. You see him traveling and going to a ton of different courses. He's racked up. He might have the second or third most courses played of all people in the world. He definitely has the most expansive list because of playing in all the different countries that he's played. So it's not just about checking them off or collecting them, as we say. Here in the U.S., he's all about collecting them around the world as well. So one of the most expansive disc golf course lists, and then obviously he's doing course design, and he has 2 boys in Oklahoma. All right. If you truly want to play Worlds, get your entry fee in on time, or too bad, too sad. Yeah, I don't know the details as to what he was offered. I hate to drag this on more, but I don't know what he was offered in terms of a timeline. I don't think he had quite had the qualification due to when it opened and then what his rating is and so on and so forth. But yes, if it was a matter of missing a deadline, then I have zero empathy for anybody. Like, if you're given an opportunity and then you miss a deadline, yeah, I don't. That personally, I'm not gonna let you cry on my shoulder for that one. I'm not saying that's the case, but in general. Joe PG says, great job, Terry. Thanks for coming on for a bit. I appreciate you. Thank you so much, Joe. Are there not PGA tournaments with this policy? Lifetime invite for previous winners? I don't know. Short answer is I don't know. We didn't touch on how the #1 rated player in the world is literally in last place in the 8 pool. Yeah, Manabu Kajiyama, I think we saw at D-Glow, didn't have his best stuff. I think Rochester, at least during the first round, I know he didn't necessarily have any. I mean, he's obviously a good player. I think anyone that wants to take that away from him would be absolutely incorrect. Is he the #1 player in the world when it all shakes out? No, I think once we go through the ringer of him playing here for these few weeks, we're going to see where it more or less realigns with where he's placed. Now, could he be having a bad stretch and so on and so forth? Yeah, sure. He's been a solid player. I've known him for a couple of decades. I think it's been now. He is a very good player. Is he truly the best player, the #1 rated player in the world, or deserving of that title? Not according to the numbers that will shake out in a few weeks. So I understand there's a lot of people really bent out of shape about his placement, and I guess all I can say is if you're excited to see him get knocked off that pedestal, it's going to happen. So that's what I can say about that. Greg is a beast. Anyone knows him? Yes, he certainly is. Devoted to love this sport. Terry, you having fun? Yeah. So far, so good. I'm not going to have fun getting up in the morning. I'm not going to lie. Like, I'll just bluntly as possible, especially after being excited about the idea of only doing MPO afternoons, to get up, to go watch these last 7 holes. I may or may not be actively involved in, being out on the course and being utilized and providing insight at that time in the morning with everything like I'll call it a hassle. The effort to leave your condo where most people are staying, to take a shuttle to another shuttle to get to the course, to do all of those things, nobody's excited about that. It's a part of having a bigger event and having to worry about shuttles and spectators and parking and visitor parking and player parking and then wetness on top of it. Like there's 9 layers to this, but none of that excites me. Absolutely none. Am I having fun? Short answer is yes, though. We'll go with yes. As some would say, I find a way to make the most of it. I look forward to these, Terry, all buzzing about it, so we appreciate having a guy on the inside. Thank you, WT Force. I think that's my boy Wade. Just doxed you. How many cases of Simon Line first runs are you buying? I only had a few seconds to look at the email that came in from MVP, and they're putting some significant dealer limits on those, is what I saw. Or at least probably, yeah, I think every dealer is going to have a significant limit. Here's the one thing that is mind-blowing. I'm just going to say this now. Again, call it a timestamp for later. Did I see that the MSRP on those is 40, like 40s, like drink it a 40, like $40, 40? I'm hoping that is just because of an exclusivity of this crazy proto first run like madness, and that's like part of a collectability to it. I'm going to just pray that that's the case, because and I get it, collectors and enthusiasts and everybody can jump on it or not. Like I've said this a million times, you don't need that. You do not need that Frisbee. You may want it, you may love it, you may think you love it, you may think it's going to change your life or your game or do so much for you. It's probably not. You do not need that Frisbee. You can wake up tomorrow, not buy that Frisbee, not buy that mid or driver or putter, whatever is the newest, latest release from any company. You don't need them. So I'll be very clear. I understand no one needs it. But I hope that is just I don't want to say I hope it's a money grab. I just hope that is not a new norm or precedent, other than like some exciting exclusivity of and rare circumstance. But yeah, I saw MSRP. I think is supposed to be $40. So if you want to get one from me, it's gonna carry 80. No, just kidding. I will be ordering some. I'll order as many as I can, but I want to say the limit was very, very little, like less than 20. And then similarly, I had another line, Simon, Frisbees, nothing else about, Sexton Firebirds. Sexton Firebirds. Some of you have also lost your freaking mind waiting for Sexton Firebirds. I didn't lose my mind. I knew they were coming. I didn't know when. You know when they showed up? During the press conference. The first drop of Sexton Firebirds came out yesterday, 8/29, August 29th. Literally as I'm like looking at my questions during the press conference. And it was somebody else asking a question at the moment. I logged in as quickly as possible, and I ordered some. And then I got some of the other color. We'll talk about flying under the radar. There'll be thousands and thousands more, I'm sure, at some point. All I'm glad is somehow I got in there and got them while the rest of the world was not on top of it, and I was able to get some. I want to say this show there were 4,000 or 5,000 available. There's going to be probably plenty more, but when there's not, I'm glad I have a bunch. Again, they'll get stashed in a closet for quite a few years. How many? So that's where that's at. Will the remainder of round 1 be on YouTube? That's a great question. I'm going to assume yes. But if not, it should be a DGN subscriber. Being in Bend, did you ever meet Tory Tuff? We lost him today. Oh, I did not, and I'm so sorry to hear that. Yeah. I feel like I am friends with Tory Tuft on Facebook. But I'm not sure that we had ever necessarily known or met in person. And so certainly it doesn't appear that we were, but yeah, certainly sorry to hear that. I certainly recognize the name. And if that's the case, anytime any of our fellow disc golfers are no longer with us, sorry to hear that. How many Masters is lifetime? I'm not sure what they were talking about in terms of maybe more of the exemption talk. Manabu has been good for a while. That is certainly true. I double checked. Masters and PGA Championship winners receive lifetime invites to those tournaments. I'm too young to remember Arnold Palmer playing in his prime, but it was cool to see him show up. Yeah, that I can understand that. What were your personal impressions of Worlds being at Smuggler's Notch? I mean, it's awesome. Let's be fair. Almost every golfer, when they think about one of the top venues in the world, they think of Smuggler's Notch because of the sheer contrast that you have between Fox Run and Brewster. They're both solid courses. You literally start them a few hundred feet from one another, and they go off in completely different directions. One, of course, leading you through the woods, where really is there one-ish open hole, and I don't think I'd call hole 9 open. Semi-open, really. And then Fox, of course, has mostly open with a few still somewhat, tunneled or controlled shots. It's a pretty cool facility, and then you just have to say it. Like, when you're in this area of the country, especially come fall, I don't know how you can't. Even if you hate nature, I feel like you still would soak it in here. I don't know how you could hate nature, but if you did, you would soak it in here, and it just some of the beautiful, sights and just picturesque. It's absolutely incredible here. For a question, how are you drying your shoes? Good question. I put on a brand new pair of shoes today, Keens, that I've never worn before, brand new. Pulled them out of the box just for this trip. And I hated that I'm walking through mud within seconds of getting out there today. I hated it. However, they are what they call keen dry, and my feet were completely dry. I'm hoping the shoes have, for the most part, dried themselves out. But that sucked. There's nothing. You've all been there. You've all done that. You own a pair of shoes. You're so excited about your brand new shoes. You're thinking, man, I'm going to do everything I can to keep these nice and clean. And today, I had to walk around Brewster very first day of putting them on, which normally wouldn't be a big deal. But today's weather, they're just shoes, right? They're just shoes. You can get a beginner set for $40. I'm not sure what that's about. A beginner set. You can get are you talking about the Simon lines? Because I thought it was a single disc. The only prototype first run, they said regular on normal releases. Okay, I didn't watch the Simon video. I think he released one talking about how it's going to change his life, marketing, blah blah blah. I think Simon's staying actually just a few doors away from me here at Smuggler's Notch. He talked about hot tubbing. I thought it was weird, but maybe not. We'll see. Tim says I'm a huge Simon fan, but nah. The Alchemist in Stowe, which I drove past or was driven past today, very much known for the IPAs, currently has their Luscious. Don't make me Google that, because if that's what I need, Luscious Stout, which is a damn good stout. Is it barrel aged? Is it sweet? Like, I like stouts, but I need them sweet. Was sad timing didn't work out for you to come to Rochester. Maybe we'll get you out here for the 75th. Funny enough, this weekend was the 50th. The 40th, I feel like, was taking place during the early years of SmashBoxx. And the other gentleman that were running live Disc Golf Planet TV, was to cover the Rochester event. And we were still cutting our teeth at learning how to do live disc golf ourselves. And we had went out and covered in San Diego, not the San Diego Open, I forget, and it wasn't the Daniel Bowe, I forget the name of the event, but at the time. but we covered an event in San Diego that weekend. And I remember in a competitive jerkish jubilation, we went out and we struggled a little with our broadcasting. It was our first couple weeks, and there was like 3 of us on the crew. However, there ended up not being any live in Rochester. I guess they had technical issues as well. And so, although we were largely worried about being overshadowed, we were the only live event that particular weekend, because I think there were some struggles in Rochester. Correct me if my math is wrong on some of that, but I feel like that was the 40th. And because I remember wanting an opportunity to be able to cover that. And we were just so new of a company that they weren't about to take it away from Disc Golf Planet TV. Did you talk about the New Jersey course getting closed down? I can't say I know a ton about it, but I know Stafford Woods, right? Is the one that is very much, you've seen it on all the socials, and it sounds like it's in jeopardy. There is a petition running, so yes, I would encourage anyone to go out there anytime we can have a chance to save a disc golf course. I think we're going to want to do so. Mud on the shoes is frustrating. Amen. If you're heading to PEI next week, grab Tire Shack Marshmallow Stout. That sounds unbelievably amazing, but I will not be. And I guess I didn't really touch on this yet. Shortly after this event, Worlds wraps up. I, as I explained to Kristen today, I'm heading to Estonia. When the European Championships was to take place a few weeks ago, which we saw Kristen go on to win that in crazy fashion, it was some of the organizers and people there that had originally talked about having some media and being present for the event, and it didn't work out that I was going to be able to be there and be any part of that event because I was 100% locked into D-Glow. I've been on that schedule for a few months, and super honored and thrilled and excited about the idea of being in Estonia in any capacity. And then that kind of led to some other conversations and some other questions. And next thing you know, I'm looking at a different event to potentially play in, or to potentially either play and or film. And when it was all said and done, that one doesn't necessarily pan out, and more conversations ensued. Now there's going to be a Disc Golf Guy doubles that's going to take place next Friday on September 8th, I think is the date, which leads into a weekend event that's also going to be played on Saturday and Sunday in Estonia. Järvijaani, which I'm sure I'm not pronouncing, Järvijaani is the location. And little did I know, there would turn out to be a significant Masters division in terms of turnout. So I'm going to do some sightseeing. I'm going to hopefully collect a few Estonian courses for sure. I'm hopefully going to be able to take in a little bit of it and meet with many of the locals and host a doubles on Friday, and possibly some other things that we have in the works. So big shout out to Latitude 64. I'm getting custom stamped discs that are arriving in Estonia tomorrow. Disc Golf Guy stamped, custom stamped discs. And we just opened up registration for the doubles that's going to take place the day before the event. And then I'm going to stick around and hang out with everyone there in Estonia. So I don't think I have a lot of Estonians watching at the moment, but I am super excited. And I said this to Kristen earlier today, of course, your most famous Estonian. And I said, hey, I'm going to Estonia. She said, what? And I said, I know it's going to be weird to be there and you're not, because she's just going to have completed Worlds and then likely taking a few days off to then get down to the MVP Open, which I'll be back to help cover. But yeah, I told her about the plan and how it all unfolded, and she was completely baffled by it. And I will admit, it does feel a little weird knowing I'm going there and not necessarily to cover her or Silver or Albert or Katie Tate or a few of the other Estonians we've all come to know and love. But looking forward to a trip that's for myself, but also for meeting some people in Estonia, and nothing but excitement from some of the organizers. There's conversations about other sponsors and people supporting this trip. including possibly a bag sponsor and whatever. So there's a lot of excitement going on. You guys are going to continue to see and hear more about it as it goes on. Obviously, World's Week is here and upon us, but from there, it should be a lot of fun. All right, Terry, always coming in with great sunglasses game, and particularly like those colored tortoise shell ones. Can you share the make and model? I wish so badly I had like some kind of a code to just get you there, either give you a discount and or have them attached to me. But those are from Blenders, and I continue to tag them as best as I can. But Blenders is the name of the company, and I don't know. Maybe if you do buy something, tell them the disc golf guy sent you. I would love to have a partnership with them. I do not. They don't pay me. I don't pay them. But I would. They make tons of great sunglasses, and I continue to wear them, and I really do like them. And let's keep on moving. So thank you, Jeffrey. End of men's round one on YouTube. I think that was just asked. I don't know. I assume so, but I don't know that for a fact. Ray says you and Dustin did a great job on Tournament Central. You guys have good chemistry. Funny enough, I've known Dustin prior to this. Dustin had helped me cover an event at one point in Alabama, and Dustin and I have had conversations for a few years now. He's, comes from professional broadcasting in the esports world. Wow, gaming world, esports. Shows you how much I'm in tune with it. And but I know he has a sporting background and commentating background, so it's been great. I'd like to say I enjoy working with pretty much everybody. I really do. But when someone, I was gonna say when someone's good, but everybody I've worked with has been so good. I enjoy working with every host that I've had, part of Tournament Central, and then sometimes I've played host. So I really enjoy it. So thank you though for the compliment, and I know Dustin would appreciate it as well. How much potential do you see in Saarinen? I said this to somebody else today. Julian Marquez, the MMA fighter who you guys met from Funky Farms the last couple of years. Sometimes when I'm out on the course, he has random questions for me. And today he was asking some stuff that was going on when I was out there and we're watching the round and it's unfolding. And he had texted me talking about how good he knows Kristen is and what she had done this morning as he had watched. And he said, I don't see her losing. And I said, I agree. She's obviously very good. She's very solid. But Silva Saarinen is quickly making it. And there's tons of other women and competitors, clearly. But when you think about ones that are coming up very quickly and making a name for themselves, Silva, yeah, she's clearly unbelievable potential. She had, one or two bad holes that derailed her today, but had 4 or 5 birdies in a row prior to that. She's good. There's no doubt about it. Dustin versus Robbie C in a cage match. Okay. Silva was looking fantastic. Just need to temper the aggression at times. She'll get there. She's an absolute unit. International TD, hell yeah. Referring to Estonia. Yeah, super excited. Who won doubles? If you're talking about Worlds, I think you would be talking about Joel Freeman and Owen Scoggins. Oh, there you go. Some people are saying that. Don't hold me to it. Yes, Owen and Joel. Yes. I wasn't here for that. I was a little sad by that, but I believe all the coverage is out for it. I have 8 pair of Blenders. Great sunglasses, Tommy says. Love it, Tommy. Is anyone tracking the ratings Tatar needs to get to 1,000 before the next update? I'm not. I don't want to say I don't care. I care. I think it'll be awesome because she clearly has the best chance to get there out of anyone as of late, for sure. I did think about when I heard it was an unofficial 1034 today. I thought, wow, like she's not just creeping over 1,000, with that round and what that does or doesn't do for her. When you put up some of these numbers that she has been over the last few weeks, insane. I don't have a doubt that she'll be the first to get there. And I also said that about Paige a few years ago. But right now, if anyone gets there, it clearly feels like it's going to be her. And there's no one else that's even coming close to that right now. Just not even close. who's the last lefty to win a Worlds any division. I'm guessing there were some probably in the last year. Yeah. I'd have to go back and think about even the Masters. There were some for sure, somewhere. World Championships 2009, Rosedale Upper Course, and it rained as hard as rain can come down. I was there. I don't remember that, but that's not to say it happened. It didn't happen. Silva looks like her putting ability could compete with Owen. They're so different. Owen and Silva's putting styles, they might have similar results, but their styles, Owen is clearly a little softer and a little more wobbly, but yet very effective. Silva just jams them in, I feel like, from everywhere, just on a rope. I think that's part of what's unique and exciting about the skill sets, is just seeing how so many people get there in different ways. Did you already discuss the Simon line? MVP is doing big things. 40 disc is too steep, though. Yes, we already discussed that back up about 15, 20 minutes. Val shot 1,009 and is 3 strokes back. That is truly incredible. Yeah, speaking to the day that Kristen had out there. Kristen Tatar. Okay. You know me. I could drag this on for hours, but I'm not going to tonight. It's been an hour and 31 minutes. I hope everything has worked pretty well for you guys. If this continues to work, then you might see more of me as the week rolls on, assuming I don't disrupt too many of my roommates. I want to thank you guys. We'll have, of course, extra giveaways as I get back into the studio with Johnny V back into Milwaukee at some point. It won't be for a few weeks, but when I do, we'll have extra giveaways, as we always do, because I don't have a giveaway tonight. So if you're a Patreon subscriber, we love that you step up and support us in any capacity. Thank you so much. I got a few more Patreon things out in the last week. Somebody else just hit me up. If you're ever owed something from being a winner on Patreon, do not hesitate to reach out to me. I do not take offense to it. Don't think you're bothering me. We want to make sure that you are taken care of and recognized, and we very much appreciate it. So, but we'll have probably a whole stack of giveaways at some point when I'm back and we're getting things all caught up, and Johnny's got the fancy spreadsheet in front of him. Johnny's probably already sleeping, as he's got to get up extra early to do the MPO round tomorrow morning, and then also in the afternoon, and all the madness. Yeah, MPO. No, MPO. He's gonna wrap up the MPO in the morning and then lead right into the FPO. That's his plan. So, thank you guys. Sunscreen, yes. BC is calling for it. I appreciate it. Thanks for everything you do. I appreciate it. Finally watching live. Thank you, all you guys. Again, I can't say it enough. Johnny would say it as well. Really, really appreciate it, and hope that there was a little payoff to the idea of not having the show last night, so that we'd have more to talk about and for us to break down tonight. And you may or may not see me do some of the drop zones or nightly recaps over on my channel for the rest of the week. If you're subscribed here, I hope you're subscribed over on my channel. One of these days I'm going to get to 100,000. That won't be for a few months, but nonetheless. All right, I'm going to click on a button. I think when I do it, it's going to maybe get us in the right direction. Oh, I'm going to click on I called it closing thumbnail. I don't know. SmashBoxxTV podcast 469. Thank you for joining me. This is the World Championships 2023 taking place out here in Vermont, brought to us by our friends at LL Bean. Be an outsider. All the other plugs I'm not it's paid to say, but we do certainly appreciate it. We'll see you guys sometime later on the week when you step inside the Smashbox.